Hey guys, Dan here. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the relationship between aperture, shutter speed, and exposure. And I'm here in the kitchen because we can draw a perfect analogy between these three things by using water as an example. Here's what I mean. In camera world, the total amount of light that's allowed to pass through the lens is determined by the aperture, the size of the opening in the lens. And in the same way, when you're dealing with a faucet, the amount of water that's allowed to pass through the faucet is determined by how wide you have the tap open, just like a lens. Now, shutter speed is very different. It has nothing to do with how much water is passing through the faucet, but again, in faucet world, it has to do with how long you leave that faucet running for. So in the same way with cameras, shutter speed has to do with how long you allow light to expose the sensor for. And the combination of the two, the combination of aperture and shutter speed, determines the total amount of light that reaches the sensor in the end. Now, in water world, it kind of works out to be how much water winds up in the glass at the end. So when you combine the size of the opening in the faucet with how long you leave it on for, you will accumulate a total amount of water in your cup. Let me illustrate. Now, if we were to use a very wide aperture and a very fast or short shutter speed, it would look something like this, opening up the tap as wide as it gets and allowing water to come out very quickly for a very short amount of time, just like this. And we have a full glass of water. So, in the same way, if we wanted to go to the very other end of the spectrum, and of course there's many stops in between, but if we wanted to go to the other end of the spectrum, well, one thing that we could do would be to use a very small aperture, which doesn't let a lot of light through the lens, but compensate with that by allowing it in for a very long amount of time. So this is what that would look like in our water analogy. So we wind up with exactly the same results, two glasses filled with water, but we got there in very different ways. And in the same respect, with cameras, you can arrive at the same total level of brightness, reaching your sensor by simply adjusting your aperture and balancing it with your shutter speed.